all the ways to promote your product, the most effective is word of mouth.
92% of us rely on the recommendations of our friends.
Word of mouth is the most powerful form of marketing.
Nothing influences people more than a recommendation from a trusted friend. Word of mouth.
And today we're looking at books. We rotate between podcasts, streaming services, and of course books, and word of mouth, as we know, is the best place to share your ideas and your great reads. What have you been reading lately? We want to hear from you. 1300 222 891. You can also text through on 0467 922 891. All our word of mouth segments, we bring in people who love these forms of entertainment. Today, Stacey Howard joins us. She's the owner of Mockingbird Lounge, a second-hand bookstore and cafe down at Glenelg. Hello, Stacey.
Hi, Sonia.
Good to talk with you again. And as someone who, I think your cafe still holds the record for the most number of book clubs in the state or the country?
Oh, I don't know. Let's call it the world.
Let's call it the world. It's a lot anyway. You get a lot of feedback on what a great book. So that was one of the reasons we wanted to talk with you. Now, often when we talk about this, we talk about new releases, but you've got some really good, solid books that are being loved by book clubs. And you're going to start with a favourite. Craig Silvey spoke to me at Writers' Week last year or the year before, I'm not sure, now about this book, Honeybee. This comes up on a regular basis. Tell us a little bit about Honeybee.
Well, yes, as you said, it's by Craig Silvey, who wrote Jasper Jones quite a few years ago, which was has become an Australian cult classic. And I feel like Honeybee is, heading the same way. So it's the story of a transgender teenager. And it starts off and it gets you right there, right in the story. It is a bit traumatic, I suppose, in many ways, but you're following this journey, and this person's had quite a traumatic life. But then really it is a story of hope and obviously transformation, and a lot of good things happen. And I read it and it felt to me a bit like a fairy tale, like kind of Cinderella story. So a lot of good things happen, and some people who read the book thought that was a bit unrealistic, but hey, it's fiction, anything can happen, and hopefully these things, like good things, do happen.
Sometimes it's nice to have an optimistic view of the world, yeah?
Yeah, I mean, and this character in this book had a lot of bad things happen, so, I was just so happy for them to have some good happen in their life.
Yeah.
And, you really care about the characters straight up, and just want to see good things happen. So, yeah.
I don't know if you've ever heard an interview with Craig talking about the origins of Honeybee, but I know when I spoke to him, he recounted how this came from an incident where he was actually on a bridge, I think in Perth, and was stopped in the traffic by people because there was a young person trying to take their own life. And turns out that it was a person who just didn't know where they fitted in the world because they were transgender. And Craig felt a real connection to make sure that person was okay down the track.
Yeah, well, that's exactly how the book starts.
Yeah.
So, I can see. Obviously, he took some direct inspiration there. But,
Indeed.
It's a great one. Like, absolutely love it. So.
Oh, that's great. Honeybee by Craig Silvey. I haven't met anyone yet who's actually read it who says they didn't love that book. So I haven't actually managed to get there yet, but I will try to do that. Another texter here, Heather at Clarence Park. You say, I've just finished rereading the Harry Potter books. I still cry in some places. They are so well written. Oh, thank you, Heather, for that. It's important not to forget the books that are probably right under our noses, in a sense. And speaking of that one, and we've talked about it a bit in recent times, in the last 6 months or so, Linda on the text line is also on the bandwagon for Hannah Kent's new book called Devotion. She says, I'm loving Devotion by Hannah Kent. The language is just so beautiful. I cannot recommend it highly enough. I've got to say, I really enjoyed that one as well. Now, talking of Writers' Week, I think Janine Cummins was here with her book, American Dirt, not all that long ago, Stacey.
Oh, I'm not sure, actually.
Yeah, but anyway, tell us a bit about this one.
It was Writers' Week that introduced me to that when there was a topic of discussion about who gets to tell a story and who owns a story, because this is a story of a Mexican woman and her journey to America, and it was written by an American woman, not a Mexican woman. So she did get a lot of heat for writing this book, and it brings up that whole discussion of who gets to tell a story. But anyway, that's sort of a sideline to this book.
Yeah.
So this book, this isn't a spoiler because it's how it starts. Is this woman has her whole family massacred by a drug cartel in Mexico, and it's all that's left is her and her young son. And, for her life, she has to flee the country. And it's literally a journey that you follow her and her son just trying to, save their own lives to get out of this country. And, again, it's, traumatic and devastating, and they meet other people along the way that are also doing the same thing for other reasons. And it's like a heart-racing story at times where you're with them, following them on this journey. And I think it was really well researched, and it is really accurate. This is happening a lot. And so although it wasn't a Mexican person who wrote the story, I feel like she wrote it well.
She captured it.
Yeah, really told the story and just highlighting what life can be like for people in these situations.
Yeah, so that was American Dirt by Janine Cummins. If you've read these books and love them too, or have a view on them, 1300 222 891, or you can text through on 0467 922 891, or you might want to throw a whole lot of other titles into the mix. Let us know a little bit about them so we can judge for ourselves whether that sounds like something we'd like to take up. Thanks, Sue, for telling us about The Island of the Missing Trees. This is a book by Elif Shafak. I hope I'm saying that correctly. Elif, and the surname Shafak. Sue says it's a great story of the clash of religions, cultures within the island of Cyprus. The central figure, apart from two young lovers, is a fig tree. Definitely worth reading, says Sue. Well, thank you for that. I'm reading, another texter says I'm reading Violetta by Isabel Allende. It's a historical fiction of Violetta's life over her 100 years, and it's really grabbed me. I'm not sure who Violetta is, but Isabel Allende was always one of my go-to authors over the years. I do love her writing. There's always a bit of a lyrical quality to it, and often there's a sort of underlying supernatural element to it. I must admit, I've always been a bit of a fan. Are you an Isabel Allende reader, Stacey?
I was when I was younger, and I loved it, but maybe not so much these days. I think I just like the real life stories.
Yeah, she got very supernaturally, didn't she?
Yeah,
and that lost me a little bit too. I've got to say I liked her earlier works too. I preferred her earlier works, I'm saying. Michelle says, I really enjoyed Plain Truth by Jodi Picoult, a good whodunit set in the Amish community. Great one. Jodi Picoult, very, very popular. And finally, what's your final recommendation today, Stacey?
Okay, so final one is A Room Made of Leaves by Kate Grenville.
Oh,
another Australian author.
Can't go wrong there.
Yeah, she wrote The Secret River, which actually I haven't read. I can't believe it. But this one is another historical fiction, and it's a fictionalized biography of Elizabeth MacArthur, the wife of John MacArthur, the wool baron. And it's strangely written in that it's written like a biography, and if you weren't aware that it was fiction, you would believe that it was a biography. And I found it really clever and engaging and funny as well, because Kate Grenville, I think, has used some of the real letters from Elizabeth MacArthur, but maybe interpreted them a little bit differently. So, she's created this world where Elizabeth MacArthur has her own life and is a strong, independent woman. And she was here in Australia for many years while John MacArthur went back to England. And she's kind of filled in the gaps of that life. And there's some funny parts, like that she's writing a letter to her friend and talking about her husband's return. And she says, "Oh, you can imagine my joy at his return." And she's taken that to be a sarcastic comment rather than actually imagining joy at his return. So she's done a few things like that, and really given this woman her own story. And I found it really, really engaging and interesting, because it's set in the the early days of Australia, so
Sure.
the setting's real, obviously.
It's called Room Made of Leaves by Kate Grenville. Stacey, as always, thank you so much for joining us. The 3 books she's looked at is Honey Bee by Craig Silvey, American Dirt by Janine Cummins, and Room Made of Leaves by Kate Grenville. Well, I'm guessing from Mary at Parkside that she's going to have to add that Kate Grenville book to her list now, because she's just said, wow, I read both Honey Bee and American Dirt in succession, both brilliant reads. So you're on the same wavelength, Stacey.
Yeah, and my 4th Tuesday 10 a.m. book club, who met this morning, they've read all 3 as well and can also strongly endorse. So
Good on you. Stacey Howard, owner of Mockingbird Lounge, a secondhand bookstore